one thing that I've always done in my life, no matter how difficult the situation is, I would find something or some things that I can still do, that I can still make work, and just focus on that.
Yes, yes.
All right. Hi, Francis. So again, how are you doing today? Is everything good on your end?
Everything okay so far. I think that everybody's healthy, so that should be great.
So with this, we would love to know more about you. So we're going to ask you a few things. First off,
Okay.
may you just introduce yourself? A short introduction with your work experience, what you are doing right now, and basically who is Francis here in this industry.
But I've always been in the customer service or customer experience side of things, around specifically around e-commerce, the web development. Although I never really created or coded anything myself, but I've troubleshooted, onboarded, implemented, and troubleshooted product offerings. Since I think right from the very beginning, I've used to work for a web hosting company, and then recently, where I worked for almost 12 years, it was a Canadian ERP provider, where, of course, point of sale software, business management, and a lot of e-commerce uh, integration as well. So I've always been a customer facing kind of professional, and around it, of course, if you keep doing it so many times, you kind of develop something that is kind of more leaning towards leadership and the SOPs, the SLAs, the processes, fixing what is a famous problem. So I got into leadership as well and creating policies and recruiting talents, training. So yeah, I've generally been around e-commerce, supporting e-commerce products.
There are a lot of different skills to unpack in here, right? So, what
Right,
would you
right.
say would be your greatest field of expertise, and let's just say key skills, right? So, what will be those?
Probably the most unique, I wouldn't say unique, but this is very rare. My soft skill is something that I've been exposed a lot of, just talking to business owners and realizing what kind of business solution we should deploy for them. So I have, I counted, but probably over 20 different industries in retail, wholesale, even businesses that shares their serves their services. So usually around North America and Canada, we're the most of them. So I have developed the skill to read between the lines, because not everybody's talking the same way as far as technology goes. They don't really know what to talk about, so you want to guide them through it, and that is a part that I think I may be ahead from most talents out there. My hardest skills are, I'm very resourceful. You don't always have the solution to every problem out there, to every error prompts that you get, and you have to be resourceful at all times. In technology, the problem is that everything is evolving every time, so the study, the learning should never stop. So that's, I think, I never stop reading. I mean, to this day, I'm still exploring the AI tools available today, and my Gmail account is all over the place.
It looks like you have mentioned a great variety of skills and, of course, experience as well. But could you tell us a bit more about how you have first started with your field? Like, what was the challenges that you have encountered when you first started to apply a job? And maybe you could even share some of the success stories or even the challenges and lessons learned throughout your first stages in the career.
It was one of my good friends, and I should say one of the more educated friends of mine. And I have many, but this one is he loves computers. He's a computer engineer. He loves math. It's what I'm trying to say. So he came up to me one day and said, and asked me if I could help him, put into reality his lifelong dream of providing web services to schools and students at the time. And I was a student, so I didn't know if I'd be good, great fit, but I said yes. So that's how we started the business. But it's an internet cafe, really.
Mhm.
But behind it was a lot of other business processes. So it was an internet cafe, and we started, doing, assisting, going through schools, what kind of websites you need, helping students with their thesis or ID projects. So we did a lot of that. So, and then from there, I fell in love with it, just talking to teachers, students, and how vague it was website for them. At the time, very few people truly understand how to create a website, what is a website, and how do you host it,
Mhm.
right? So that got me interested into it, and that's how I tried to look for a job in web hosting. That's my real next job, web hosting. It was one-in-one internet. I think they've rebranded themselves as Ionus right now.
Mhm.
So I worked there it was for shared hosting. And yeah, I got hooked to it. And from then I said, if I'm not going to last very long here, my next company should also be around e-commerce website. And
Mhm.
that's how I landed in my previous job, where I worked for almost 12 years,
Mhm.
really. And one of the big one of the biggest lessons I've learned there was that numbers. One of the biggest lessons that he taught me was do the numbers every time.
Mhm.
Just in everything, your work, your life, everything. I'll give you an example. This is a question he gave me, like,
Mhm.
because we were working around schools and students. So this is what he, like, give me an example of, like, how do I do numbers with my life? He said, well, here's a good question. How many months are there in a semester?
Mhm.
How many weeks are there in a month? How many days in a week where students have classes, or how many hours in the day do students spend at school? Right. You do that math, and then you realize there's a lot more time outside of school that you have as a student. There's very little hours within a semester that you could go into school. I said, yeah, he's right. So, you know, since then I started doing the math, really, and everything that I do work, I calculate things. So yeah,
Mhm.
that was tough one at first. I started with my finances. When you're starting out, you're not making that much.
Mhm.
When you do the math, I was trying to do the 50, 30, 20.
Mhm.
So I split it into half monthly pay. It was a struggle, but yeah. And I kind of, right from the very beginning, I kind of wanted to know the best things or the best ways in handling work. At a very early age, as a teenager, I was asking people what's the best way in doing work? How do you become successful? I got many, but that is the main one for me. I'm still practicing it to this day.
We do know, in fact, right, that whenever we apply to something, like a portion of that will only reply, right? Let's just say you have
Right.
given 300 emails out there, only a portion of it, a small percentage of it will reply. So with this, I would like to ask you if there are different, let's just say, any experiences that you have experienced when it comes to finding a job that's been posing somewhat of a challenge. Like, let's say interview ghosting is right there, right? Wherein they won't come back or give a feedback after an interview. So could you share us an experience of yours when it comes to finding a job?
I, for one, is guilty of this because I've been a recruiter in my previous company for many years, and I just feel bad for those people I haven't replied to. There were thousands of them at some point, so it was impossible. But yeah, applying for a job nowadays is really difficult, to say the least. It's even confusing at times. Yes, ghosting, and I think most of the interviews that I've had this whole time, it seems like people or recruiters were looking for a cultural fit instead of someone with the right set of skills to do the job. So that was my experience, and yeah, that confuses me. I mean, how do you run a team just, you know? doesn't have the right skills to just because you think you will like the person. But anyway,
Mhm.
yeah, it's been hard. It makes you wonder out of these things that you apply to a number of job posts. I mean, a lot of them, and no word in return, nothing. It's just like a black hole. It just disappeared into outer space, right? It's been difficult, and it makes you think. You know, at one point, I thought to myself, "Am I still relevant? Do I still have the right set of skills given my experience and my leadership?" Do I need to learn new things now? I mean, I am learning new things. So a lot of the things that got posted there, tools like, yeah, I thought I've used a lot of tools in my career, but I've never heard of these things.
Mhm.
Like there are new things out there, new softwares that's being offered, and it's evolving every time. So, I thought maybe I should learn all these tools and all these languages that they're talking about, start over again. So it's heartbreaking,
Mhm.
really.
With this, I'll just add a bit of follow-up question on that. Since you have experience being a recruiter, right? So, what do you think is the main reason why interview ghosting is happening? I mean, because I do know for a fact that it's not just simply because we're doing it as is, but what do you think is the core root or issue behind it? Like, um why are there interview ghostings that's been happening, or why do recruiters are not able to provide a feedback? So what's the core issue about it?
I think it's it's the lack of concrete decision from the management side of things because obviously I think the decision of change, to just not continue with the interview because that's the only reason I can think of it. No word, but no word really. No message. Hey, sorry, something like that, right? It's just nothing. So it's a really really curious phenomenon going on right now. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have been talking about it, but yeah, I can't begin to wrap my head around it. Why not show up and why not notify the candidate?
Mhm,
It's really interesting, but something I don't have an answer to. But
mhm,
maybe in the near future we will. Somebody will explain it.
mhm,
But to me, I think it's someone changed their decision.
mhm.
Just drop all of that, or maybe the interviewer got fired. I don't know.
What are some of the things that you're looking to achieve with your career as of the moment? Like, let's just say you mentioned that you're currently looking in studying different softwares, different things that are in right now.
Hmm.
So, what is how do you envision basically your career within the next 5 years?
Well, I'd like to see myself in the future doing the same things that I did, that I'm still
Mhm,
doing. Right from the beginning, I never stayed out of it. I mean, after there was a time when recruiters from abroad would actually email you directly. How they got a hold of my email? I had one from Dubai, I think that was, and then one in Singapore. I turned them down because it wasn't the field that I love to do. So
mhm,
I'd like to see myself doing customer facing web presence or e-commerce. uh yeah, that's my kind of thing. I've already developed a whole set of skill set for that.
mhm,
So yeah, I'd probably be best doing that for a company than anything else. I can do leadership as well. It is something everybody's learning because as the job have evolved, also the roles evolved. So a lot of things are moving right now. So it's going to be a challenge, especially for managers in a remote setting where everybody remote. You're the manager. So what kind of tools that works best? How to collaborate? Stuff like that. Asynchronous communication. So
mhm,
that's gonna be a challenge. But I'm not tapping out on leadership so long as I still get to do get my hands dirty on a job. I
mhm.
love getting my hands dirty.
As from this interview so far, you have really given great insights and basically advice in some sort. So with this, if the community would be watching this one, what's a one piece of advice that you have learned through the years that would be very essential for someone who is just starting their career?
There will always be hard times along the way, and sometimes very confusing, where there's more questions than answers. And people will tend to you will tend to just drown with it. One thing that I've always done in my life, no matter how difficult the situation is, I would find something or some things that I can still do, that I can still make work, and just focus on that. Just move on, just keep on doing things that will still work for you, right? Don't dwell on the negative side of things. Continue, just focus on what you can still do.